What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Switch Talk 2, the perfectly pocket-sized podcast for fans of this hybrid console that has stolen our hearts and minds. That's the sequel we're talking about. Switch 2, my God, they had a banger of a game, Donkey Kong Bananza. This is the most important part of the show right now, the warning. Warning, this is a spoiler cast. Warning, spoiler cast. We're talking about stuff that you would only experience if you beat the game, if you rolled that second credits of Donkey Kong Bananza. Stop listening now. Come back. If you didn't know from the title, if you didn't know from the thumbnail, it's a spoiler cast. We're going to get into it. I love chatting with my best buds, and I want everyone listening to have these two gentlemen be their best buds as well. So we're going to do a quick get to know you. I wanted to talk about times that you've rolled end credits. As most people who know me, understand, I don't beat games. Hardly ever do I beat games. But when I do, they're really special and they kind of stick with me. So I wanted to talk to you about a game that stuck with you that you rolled credits on, or one that had an impact on you, or one that you're proud of. For me, one of the best games that I played, when I just think about rolling credits, I have two. So Celeste is the one I'm proud of. I only did the first credits. There's extra super strawberry levels and B-sides and stuff. I did not do that. I didn't consider myself good at the game. When I realized that all that shit was there, I was like, man, I'm proud of myself. Then I'm like, oh wait, this is the true stuff. But Celeste I was most proud of. And then the one that sticks with me is the ending of Prey. I loved Prey. I think it was 2016, where you had the glue gun and it's in space, and it's just it was an epic game. It was an adventure game, lots of exploration, and there were two main endings that I know of that you could get. And I actually beat the game, went back to a save, made different choices, and then got the other ending just because I really enjoyed that game. I didn't play the Moonfall DLC, which people say elevated the entire experience, was even better than the base game. So that's on my pile of shame backlog. Clay, ending credits. What did you beat? What game?
Oh, yeah.
You beat games. You beat
I
games
do
all the
beat
time.
games. Yeah. Hitting credits always feels good. The first game I ever got credits on was Kirby, for the Game Boy. That was one of the first games that I could beat in a single sitting, and I remember always running into credits on that and feeling super accomplished. Donkey Kong Country was one of those that when we finally hit credits on it, felt super accomplished back in the 90s. So I remember being super stoked about that. Yeah, those are a couple.
The
Old
thing
school.
about beating these old games like you're talking about is there's not there's saving in Donkey Kong Country, but you have limited lives. But in the Game Boy one, does that have any type of save, or maybe
No.
you put in a code? So you had to beat it all
Right.
run. That's impressive. That is crazy. That's the old school stuff. I remember keeping Metal Gear Solid 2 on and my PS1 running because I didn't have a memory card. So there was no way for me to save. So I'd leave it on at night for a week until I beat the game. That was memory cards, people. If you
Nice.
remember that. David, what game have you beat that stuck with you?
Um, so I guess we talked about first a little bit. So my first game that I ever beat was, I believe it was Link to the Past for Super Nintendo.
Damn,
Good
that
one.
is wild. Did you
Yeah.
use guides or
No,
this
I
was
mean,
back in the day?
yeah, I mean, it was in the 90s, early 90s. So, I mean, I think I knew what to do because back then, me and my brother, we would take turns playing our own files and we kind of watch each other. So if someone figured something out, so we'd learn it from the other one.
That's
So we
impressive.
knew what to. So I think I knew what to do, but it was still I remember the final boss being quite difficult for me for someone at that age. And another one that kind of stuck with me is more of just it was an achievement. I mean, not really to roll credits on it, but to beat it on its hardest difficulty level, and I think that would be Perfect Dark for N64,
Oh yeah,
which is an
I've seen you
incredibly
play that game. I've seen
yeah,
you stream play
it's an
that game.
incredibly difficult game at its highest difficulty level. Um, and I sort of remember that beating that one as being such an accomplishment because it was one of the few things that I did that my brother didn't. Um, so yeah, it was quite a feat. And I do reach credits on games. I think definitely a lot more frequently than you do, Tony. Usually, not I
Most
wouldn't say
people
that I
do.
do it on everyone. There's definitely games that I buy that I kind of just play for a little bit, and or I think for me it's usually if I play a game for like a half hour and then I stop and say I'm going to come back to it. Those are the games that end up usually not hitting credits on. But if I spend like a whole couple days really getting into a game, like I usually play it to completion.
100%.
Usually,
I think
well, not like 100%ing it, but like at least get credits.
there's a I think that's really something that is the hallmark of a good game, one that captures you enough to keep you going the whole time.
Mhm.
Like and which brings us to Donkey Kong Bonanza. As soon as I started playing, I knew that I was going to finish it and that eventually I would get the 100%. That was the type of game. It was addicting. And we were, thanks to you guys and Clay pushing me, he's like, don't stop playing, keep going. I'm like, I'm kind of burned out after like 3 days. It's like, no, like go the full week and like do it. We beat it in about like, 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more, but I was going session after session and it was just addicting. You could chew on it and play every level for like 3 hours, or you can rush through it. And we all hit end credits, and it was something. Uh, David, I think the big thing, the big spoiler we want to talk about is what happens at the end. So take us through it. What's the big thing that wraps up the game? Talk about end boss and end level, and
Right.
the big reveal. What happened? What was the thing? What was the banana gem? What was it? Golden root banana? Something about a mega thing. It was in the ground.
Banana root, something like
Banana
that.
root.
Something like
Bonanza
that.
root. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because you were all telling us how like, oh man, I'm on the final boss, I'm the final
I thought
boss,
I was.
and I was like, are you? So you were at Void Kong, and like I think we even screen shared with you a little bit to watch you,
Yeah.
in hopes that we could see the moment. Um, but yes, Void Kong is not the final boss. Like after you beat him, turns out that the little string, because there's like this little, I don't know what you want to call it, like this weird kind of gold thing protruding out of the ground.
Right. A
You get
mound
like
with
the
gold around it.
yeah, like oh, this is the banana root or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and like after you beat Void Kong, that turns out that that's King K. Rool's belly, and he just kind of like awakens from the ground and then like punches Void Kong off into the distance.
I didn't
Um,
see it coming.
yeah, yeah.
Like when you
Um,
look back at it, it's like, oh, it's his belly.
yeah, I had it.
Right.
I didn't know for sure. I mean, I assumed it would be K. Rool, but I did have it coming partially spoiled for me when
Ouch.
because you know that part of the game where you have to get all this gold to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had like harmlessly like okay, what's the best place to farm gold? And I googled that, and then one of them was like Kremling something, and I'm like, oh come on.
Oh,
Oh, that
I
sucks.
think it was like Google AI or something where it summarizes a bunch of shit, and then I'm like,
yeah.
thanks. I just wanted to know where to get the stuff. So at that point, like I already kind of had a suspicion, especially looking at the character models of the skeletons. Like some of them look very Kremling like,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of like, you know, it kind of looks like a Kremling. I wonder if we could be seeing something later on. So it wasn't that big of a spoiler because I did kind of think that there was a good chance that they might bring back the old guy. Um, but yes, so after that whole boss fight, um, you kind of descend down to this additional layer that you didn't know that was there. I believe it's layer 1600. I think if I'm correct, because I think I believe Void Kong's 1500 because it feels like a even number, so you're trying to make you think it's the last one. And then this whole layer is kind of a tribute to Rare's sort of Donkey Kong Country games. Um, a whole bunch of the old enemies are back, and they even bring back a tons of the old sound effects. When you
Yeah.
kill enemies, like the little like all the sound effects, and you kill enemies, little bzz, you kill the bees, like everything that and love. And it's pretty magical if you're a big fan of those games, like I am, and it's kind of like especially it's just weird to see it like acknowledged in that way because it always felt like those games weren't that important to Nintendo in some ways.
Mhm.
Like they would they brought out Donkey Kong and sometimes Diddy, but even like when they took over the franchise, it didn't really feel like they were really leaning into the Donkey Kong Country stuff so much. And you see that earlier on in the game too, because there's like there's a couple throwback levels to DKC. So it's really cool just to see this whole big tribute to almost the complete history. I did think it was interesting that the Returns games aren't really referenced like at all. Well,
Mm.
pretty much every other piece of Donkey Kong media is. Um,
There is the pig, Dr. Pork, whatever his name
oh,
is.
where
He
does he show
he
up?
has a fossil. Um,
Oh, right. There's this little fossil in if you go to the silver level where all the blue rock guys are, there's a
right.
museum
In the museum, they
room
have him
that
displayed.
like
Yeah.
collects like all the stuff. It's like, oh, look at this. And you like look at it and there's
But
like
you're right, David.
throwback reference.
Those games are definitely like glaringly
Yeah, yeah.
low representation in these games for whatever
And
reason.
which is interesting because I thought that it almost like when those games were being promoted, it felt like Nintendo cared more. But I don't know. And it seems like at least the team that like was working on them were kind of like, what, maybe those are kind of more side games. It really felt like of what it's being tribute to pays tribute hardcore to the original arcade game, the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and then Donkey Kong 64. And it really feels
Mhm.
like this game feels like this is the logical step after like Donkey Kong 64. Which I guess makes sense because the other ones are kind of retro throwback, but this really is. And let's see. I mean, I guess there was Jungle Beat. To me, that kind of feels like a gimmick game. I've never played it. I've been meaning to try Jungle Beat. I actually should. I've heard the Wii version is a lot easier to control, but
For me, whenever there's a movie, like people in the theater, like my wife or anyone will just be like, "Oh, I saw that coming." Like whatever twist it is, whatever plot that is, but I never get it. So I'm like oblivious. So when the characters' skeletons change to like the full like blown out like OG like enemies, I freaked out. And like you are all saying like, "Oh, I kind of thought I remember talking in our initial episode about this. I'm like, "Oh, I love the enemy designs. I just thought they were interesting." And like I didn't think like about it too much. I was like, "Oh, it's very interesting that they went with this style of enemies." I'm like, "It's interesting. It's kind of weird, the skeleton thing." Uh just very odd, it all worked. And then when they changed and it all made so much sense, I felt so dumb. I was like, this is my most oblivious I've ever been. But like you, I really enjoyed it. What did you think about that last level? The true like the connection with, oh my god, the last level is this. Like when you go back up.
what do you mean you go back up?
Are you talking
When you
about
go
New
back
Donk
up.
City?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I guess I guess that is technically the last level when you see New Dock City from Super Mario
What were
Odyssey.
your thoughts? What were your thoughts?
I mean, to me, wasn't quite as exciting as like the Donkey Kong Country stuff, but it did seem fitting for like that whole end of that whole roller coaster of all of a sudden you're going down because in the like how I mean you're going up in the original. It was something I hadn't really thought about till that point. how the original Donkey Kong games is all about like climbing upwards up this tower, and everything with the Bonanza is like the opposite with going down. I hadn't really sort of made that like parallel. That was probably why that they were doing it. That probably where they even got the idea from was probably like, hey, what if we did Donkey Kong in reverse? And so it sort of definitely comes for full circle on that moment. It was like, oh, okay, I get what they're going for here. And
I thought when I saw the level and I saw the city, like in the beginning of the game, I saw something in the distance, like before the initial like rock thing happened and they like fell down. You could see in the background something, and I thought that was going to be the jungle of like Donkey Kong countries, like the jungle is over there in the background, and I'm like, man, I hope we go there. So that's like my one thing I thought was going to happen at some point was we were going to be in the jungles, and then like maybe a little bit of some mine stuff, like a little snippet. I'm like, we're going to go there and it's on the surface and that's going to be the end. But it ended up being the city. And when you see it and you come up and you're like, this is where we are, like it's epic. You have them do the whole like King Kong, like larger than life, and like the lava, was it lava or whatever was coming up. I thought that was going to be a full level and you were going to be climbing
Mm.
buildings and like breaking buildings down like rampage style and like stuff like that, but it ended up being more of like a race to the top to the boss type thing, which thinking back on it, the pacing, because it felt intense, like it chasing you and all that, but I kind of wanted to spend even more time in the city. So it was interesting how they did it, but yeah, whatever. What did you like the boss fights? Like I really liked the monkey Zoid ones where
Mhm.
he kept moving and you kind of like had to keep kind of chasing him using like things like he at the one point he like goes to different layers. So I thought the end boss was going to be him and you'd fight him through every single layer like very quickly, like going all the way up.
Yeah.
They went another way with it. But what did you think about the end boss? You guys, I think you watched me, or at least Clay watched me fight the end boss, some like the actual battle. What did you think of it?
Um, I would say, I mean, it kind of does a little fake out. So it's basically like 2, 3 boss fights.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say the first two were pretty good. I did they were difficult enough, but not to the point of frustration. And I will say that at the end, I did start to get kind of frustrated with the final boss.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and I do wish that there was. I guess this is a small complaint. Like I wish that there was a way to. Maybe there is. Like I was scared to try to go back because I wasn't sure if I would have to redo like the other half of the boss fight.
Hmm.
Because I think there is in the context menu. I think there is like a way to like if hit the menu and back out to like another part of the game
Oh,
if you get stuck. But I
yeah.
don't know how much you have to redo. So I got to this point where like the only way to earn money to buy like the heart containers and stuff was to keep playing the boss fight over and over again
Mm,
until I finally had like enough, and then like have one run where I'm like fully loaded with stuff. So I wasn't quite a fan of this, how you kind of feel trapped after doing so much that,
hmm.
and like I said, I don't know for sure if you would have to redo it. Maybe if I had went back, I would have went back right back to that point. I don't know for sure, but it doesn't tell you. So,
100%.
um, but I will say after sort of doing it a bunch of times, it really isn't as hard as it feels.
Yeah. Once you
Um,
figure it out, it kind
yeah,
of
there's a certain rhythm that you can
flows.
get to, and you just
Yeah.
gotta figure out like how to do everything. But it's just like one of those boss fights where it's just like you're not going to beat it the first time. It's
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
you
you
have to
have to
figure it
die a
out.
bunch.
Clay
I
was watching me. He's like, "You're doing
yeah.
it wrong." My daughter was in the room. She's like, "Do this, do this." Like, "Clay, help him." And then Clay's like, "You're not doing the mechanic that it wants you to do." The like the boss fight where you're fighting in the arena and there's all the like the hands are coming out. You can
Yes.
throw things to freeze the hands, make them gold, which gives you more gold to explode things around you. So you're like kind of clearing the area because it's getting more dangerous all around you. I thought was fun, but the performance of the game started to chug in such a way that it was kind of helping me because I could see what was coming. Like the frame rate starts chopping, and it gave me like more reaction time almost. So I was
Mhm.
playing it like felt like 15-20 frames per second, but I
Yeah.
enjoyed, the boss fight, and I also didn't understand what to do when you're done with that boss fight and the pillar goes up and the propeller thing comes out and you're rushing up the layers and Clay's yelling at me. He's like, "Do something." I'm like trying to like avoid. He's like, "Why don't you throw something at him?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And like it was just like a survival like countdown at the end there too. Clay, what did you think about the end boss? What was your experience?
Yeah, I had similar frustrations that David had. Died a couple times, and then I had it figured out, and I was like, "All right, I got this." But then I died 2 or 3 more times, and it was partially due to like some jank,
Mm,
where like there were things that were out of my control, and I ended up like losing like multiple apple juices and multiple rows of hearts because I would get like stuck on a piece of
geometry or something.
janky geometry stuff, and it just like felt like it felt a little cheap at times. So that was a little frustrating. I almost rage quit at one point when I had some unfair deaths back to back, and my wife was even watching me, and I was just like, I can't quit now because this is literally the final boss, and I'm having a great time, but I'm really frustrated right now.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I kind of forced myself to like keep going, and then I beat it shortly after. So it was a little embarrassing, like how much trouble I had. It just felt inconsistent. The skill and the difficulty just felt a little
Yeah, big
unbalanced
spike.
based off the other bosses in the game, and so it was just a little bit like it threw me off a little bit. But after you get through that part, the rest of it was really enjoyable, and I really enjoyed the last hour 15 of this game. I think they did a really good job with it, and um, really was just blown away by everything they kept throwing at us. It was crazy.
How many hearts did you have? You all hinted that it was going to be a difficulty spike, so I kind of spent a lot of money toward the end upgrading hearts when I didn't for the majority of the game. How many did you have? Would you say? I think I maxed out. I think I
Yeah,
maxed out my hearts,
I
or got
think
very close to maxing out.
I think I only had like 6 to be honest, 6 or 7.
And they hit hard too. Like when you get
Yeah,
hit toward the end, were you around like 6 or were you like 16 like me?
definitely wasn't 16.
I was on the higher end for sure,
Mhm.
but I think I had respec recently because I just started messing around with redoing my loadout or whatever you want to call it, my abilities, and so I might have had less hearts than I had most of the game, but yeah, I had quite a few still, I think. So
I thought it was interesting how the game. I love the fact that there were skills and that there were bonanzas to like unlock and like things. I thought it was great, but I thought it was super interesting how the game like made it feel like necessary to upgrade but also like natural. So many times in games I'll save my skill points, not use them, or load up in one tree only, but I felt like there was significant use for like 70% of what you unlocked. Like maybe like 10-20% were like not useless. Well, some were useless, but some were like not so important. But I felt like I was using a lot of skills, especially for some of these challenges. You can get creative. Like I remember I would snake jump up and then use the bird to like glide. And Clay's like, "Oh, I like how you've jump up high with the snake and quickly switch to the bird." I'm like, "I've been doing this immediately since I started." So I thought that was like super interesting.
I
Let's
stole that
talk.
from you. I stole
Oh
that. I
yeah, you
started
started
using it
using it.
too. I
It's
like
a
it.
really good move.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you can do, like combining stuff. We'll get to bonanzas in a second, but what happens at the end? Now we are at the end. We're finally defeated. K. He looked really cool in his bonanza form, by the way. When he does the bonanza and he becomes that second form, he looks cool. He
Mhm.
looks really cool. All right, so let's talk about the story bit. The end boss is completed, and you have the wish happen, and we have Pauline and Donkey Kong, and they say, you know what, DK, you go on your adventures and I will go learn to be a singer. I'm not afraid anymore. And then they separate. And my daughter was playing the game with me, and she sat in on sessions as we were playing, and I looked to my side and the credits are rolling, and she's bawling, crying. And I'm like super proud because I'm like, can you imagine this is the first game you've seen credits on? Like, this is your emotional it was perfect for her because she wanted to play the game because of Pauline. She's like, oh, when I showed her the story trailer, she's like, oh, I want to play that game because I want to help Pauline get home. And it was just like, that was her motivation. So for her, like, this is like brand new, this idea of like a crescendo and a payoff. For me though, I was left confused and felt like they kind of did the bare minimum because like the story bits, like the interactions between them, they talk before they do the Bonanza power up, where DK's like cheering her on and she's like nervous on stage. And then she finally sings. And then boom, you unlock the Bonanzas. So that's when some story happens. But the only other story bits are unlocked when you unlock the houses, which are optional. I didn't unlock houses for like the first couple layers. It gives you an extra heart. And it's like, okay, you can get a temporary HP boost. So it's practical, but they talk at night. And I remember, David, after we were playing for a bit, you're like, oh, I think it's cute that like they talk at nighttime, and they do it on the black screen too, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting. I was like, there's no like animation to it. They kind of lean into the it's night and they're talking before bed. Very, very interesting take. But if you don't do that, the characterization is not there. If you do, then you're like, she talks about her grandma. She talks about like, that's my big brother type thing. Like, you get more of that. So I thought it was like, I thought they could have done more. Like, at no point is there story bits. Like, they lean into her being scared. They talk about her grandma a bit and that she wants to get home. But there's so many unanswered questions. What was your thought about the story, Clay? And specifically about the lore and when this is all happening. Like, walk me through what we learned. That was a big question that we had.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely left a lot of things up in the air. They decided not to get into it too much, which maybe that's something they want people to, have discussions and debate about. Maybe they don't want to just spell everything out for
Mm-hmm.
everyone. I don't know. It's hard to say why they thought through it that way. I still feel like this game has a lot of heart and still had a lot of really good moments. Even if you skipped a lot of the sleeping stuff, I still think a lot of the cut scenes and different parts, it made it pretty good. But I don't know, the plot line itself just felt a little bit like of a stretch to begin with, because it's like Pauline's trying to learn how to be confident and be a singer, and then Donkey Kong just wants bananas. And so it's like, how do you create some similarities between those two characters and make them have similar desires? And so they're both just kind of trying to do their own thing, but they're working together and they end up helping each other. And it's sweet, but it's like at the same time, it's just not like the strongest connection either. And so it's a little bit of a stretch to begin with, in my opinion, but they figure it out, and for the most part I think it works. But I still think it's very confusing of who she is. Is she the Pauline from Mario Odyssey? Is she the Pauline from the arcade Donkey Kong game? Is she a third lineage? Like, what is this? And it's a little odd, but so it leaves a lot up to the imagination, I think.
She's a clone. She's a
Uh,
she's Attack of the Clones
did they?
DNA.
She's supposed to be a. Isn't she supposed to be a teenager? I think she's just kind of small for her age, right?
Oh,
I
I don't
feel.
know. Do they explain that?
I
she,
swear I read somewhere saying that she was supposed to be like 14 or something in this.
I don't know, man.
I'll
She
have to
looks
double check.
pretty.
Yeah, but
She
I
must
think,
had quite a growth spurt. Like, eventually.
but like that would make a little bit more sense if she is just kind of like a young adolescent. Um, and then assuming she could be late teens, early 20s in Mario Odyssey, then all that really does is meaning that all the Donkey Kong games, come a few years before the Mario games, and since Mario is probably, I don't know, I feel like he's kind of middle aged. It wouldn't really be that big. 4 years really wouldn't be that big of a difference for him.
I mean, Italians age slowly. We all know this.
Yeah, the weirder thing is like when Diddy and shit shows up in like Mario stuff, like
Oh
because
yeah.
he should have aged then.
Yeah. What? So I know you all don't want to hear this, but here's what happened. They were clear about one thing: the city exists, and Pauline, small Pauline, is Pauline, and she grows up later and becomes the mayor and performs there and all
We
that
don't know
stuff.
that. We don't
It's
know that
it's
she
so
grows up and
clear.
becomes that.
It's
They never
so
say that.
clear. But she that's where like he leaves her and or yeah, that's where I think that's pretty clear that that's Pauline and that she
See,
grows up later. And Donkey Kong Country, by extension, happens before this. They reference it when you see Cranky, when you see Diddy. They're like, oh, we went on our adventures before, and now you're with Pauline doing this adventure. And Mario Odyssey happens later, after
so
this.
by Pauline, do you mean just the Pauline in Odyssey? Or do you also mean the Pauline
Yeah,
in
that's
Donkey
the
Kong
same
Arcade?
Pauline. So Pauline grows up, becomes tall, gets a red dress
Yeah,
and a hat.
because I think it's pretty clear that she's not the Pauline of the arcade game.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because there's too many references to the arcade game in that game as in the past tense.
Oh, yeah, you know what? You're right.
So
Damn,
at the
you're right.
very least,
No, they do reference it. So that means that existed
yeah.
and Pauline was there. So that's her. That's her
But
mom. This is
yeah, her
Pauline
grandma, maybe
2.
her grandma.
And then there's
Or
a third
grandma.
Pauline. Or
And I
grandma.
just did a quick Google. Pauline is 13 in Donkey Kong Bananza. It says that in the Japanese site.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
So she's just kind of small for 13.
Right, which they had to make her small so she'd fit on his back and
Yeah,
stuff. So
yeah.
makes sense.
But like, so the amount of time that would have to pass between her looking how she does in Odyssey, assuming she's still fairly young in Odyssey, it wouldn't be that extreme.
I have a huge complaint, and tell me how you feel about this. You find a secret banana on every layer where Cranky's hiding, and he says the exact same shit every time. I was super excited the first time I found him. I'm like, cool. And then I found him again, and I'm like, I didn't realize it didn't click two and two that he like said the exact same thing. So I was like, oh, they're going to be revealing story bits every time you find Cranky. But instead, it's a huge missed opportunity. And he just says the same thing, which is super jarring. How did you feel about that? Anybody chime in?
I thought it was less than ideal, maybe a little bit disappointing. But I also think, have you ever talked to old people? They repeat themselves and are redundant to a fault. And
Oh my
so, I
god.
mean,
Yeah, that's the
it's
that's the
it kind of
lore. It
works.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Ramby, like I thought we were gonna have a lot of Ramby in the game somehow. Like I didn't do a lot of the challenge rooms 2D because I was rushing through the game. And when I went back, I realized how much of it went 2D. I really thought there was going to be Ramby levels, and I didn't find any. Are there any? Am I crazy? Did I maybe just not find a couple? But I saw Ramby. I'm like, let's go. He's going to be riding more mine carts left to right and more Ramby levels left to right. I thought that was another kind of miss opportunity there. I'm gonna like inject some of that in there. I thought,
I just don't think that's this game. I don't think that's what they're going for.
yeah,
That's more of what they've already done. They're looking for, even though Ramby, I think, is synonymous with like destroying things and crashing into things. So he would have fit perfectly in this game. But no, other than the race that you have with Diddy and Dixie, there is no other Ramby stuff. But it's a bummer. But it's not this game.
Yeah,
That's not what they were going for.
it seems like the Bonanzas were kind of like this game's equivalent to the Animal Buddies, really. And
Yeah.
Ramby was just kind of like a little throwback to acknowledge his part in the series.
yeah. I a good thing that you brought up, Clay, about like Diddy and Dixie. Like when I saw them, I was incredibly happy. I really love that they reference their previous adventures. They kind of try to explain away like or explain why they're there. I love their level, like their racing level and all that. But did you think that we were gonna get a like a Diddy playable, like now Donkey with Diddy like running around, and all of a sudden you're gonna be able to do a co-op, like somehow split screen, like anything crazy like that? Like I thought that would have been really cool, but none of that.
I did think about that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would have been something like that would have been nice. I was really hoping for uh, like a plus mode or whatever you call it, where you get to replay the game from the beginning, but you keep all your stuff, and there's a higher difficulty or challenge added on top, and
Hmm.
maybe they could tweak. My thought was, why not add the Kremlings in, have them be where they replace certain bad guys, keep them in the whole game, and then change the difficulty somehow and add Diddy instead of the girl or something. But it just none of that really happened. So it's
What
kind
do
of
you,
a bummer.
what do you think about the end game? What's there?
Not much. Yeah, so I was very excited to go back and 100% everything. And so I tried decently hard to get everything on my first go through, but I didn't stick around and like overstay my welcome on levels. So I was excited to go back and get everything and check everything off the list. Um, but it was a little underwhelming of what you actually get in the end. Um, once you get the last banana, you basically, when you go to the save and load screen, your save has 3 stars on it. Once you 100% it, that's kind of the indicator that you 100%ed it. Um, but then on top of that, you can also um, go down to the end of the game where the Banandium route is, and you can cue that final cutscene again. It does the credits once again, and then at the very end, after the credits, there's like a little screen that pops up with Pauline singing to a crowd, and there's like an updated picture that has a bunch of the characters from below ground that are there for her concert, and that is something else you get for 100%ing it. Um, and then if you then continue and you purchase all of the Bananium gems from the vendor guy using the banana chips or whatever, if you get to 1,000 bananas, you get a Donkey Kong balloon that has his face on it instead of just being a regular balloon. It looks like the ones from Donkey Kong Country.
Oh, cool.
But I haven't done that part yet because it's just literally getting a bunch of gems or the chips and then going to a guy and just mashing the A button over and over again and buying one banana at a time until you get to 1,000. I think I'm at 960 something, so I'd only have to get like 40 some more. But there's no way to buy those in bulk. You have to do it one at a time. So it's just
Mhm.
mashing the A button for like
See,
20 minutes.
so there is like a limit to how many bananas you can get that way.
Yeah, I think you can go to 1,000 that way.
Okay, like I was like when I saw when I did that a couple times, I was like, is this infinite bananas? I was like, I wasn't really sure.
Yeah.
That's crazy though. So you can
Hmm.
eventually like, that's crazy.
So
Yeah.
I completed the first two levels where you got like I got everything, like the bananas and fossils. So some additional bananas only become available in the levels after the credits. So like when I loaded up that next like first couple layers, I was like, oh, they added like 14 or they added like 20 here. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And things are different in the level, which is really cool. I thought that was like, a reason to go back a little bit. Like there are some changes.
Yeah, mostly in the first level.
Yeah, like
That's where Grumpy Kong shows back up, and he'll build things for you, and you have to pay him money. And so there's a couple challenge missions that he gives you. There's like a boss rush where you have to fight these bosses,
oh, I
uh,
didn't
and the,
know that.
and there's an enemy rush one. Um, that you can do. Those are actually very challenging because you have to do them in order, and if you die, you have to start the whole thing over. And it's not just bosses; it's also these enemy ones, but they're on like timers, and so some of them, like even if you're really good, if you don't get it in time, you have to start it over, and so they're actually very like not frustrating, but borderline frustrating. And so I spent quite a bit of time on those. And then they have Grumpy Kong has this challenge where you have to pay him 200,000, I think it is, gold, and he spoilers, I guess. He rebuilds the first city. What's it called? Uh, the monkey city that falls into the crater at the
Oh,
beginning.
does it go back up then?
It doesn't go back up; it stays down. But then on top of it has a giant Donkey Kong statue made out of gold that he puts on top. And so it took me a while to save up the money for that. Like I just kept putting it off because it's such a drag. But thankfully they give you a Pauline outfit that doubles gold income for you.
Oh,
And
cool.
so that helps you get there quite a bit faster. Our friend Jeff actually didn't realize that the game gave you that because it doesn't tell you. You just have to go into your wardrobe and find it. And so he got the 200,000 gold without having that on. So he basically farmed double the amount that he needed. So like there's some cool things in there. And then basically you go back to each one of the Bananza, the elders, and they have a dress rehearsal, which is basically this big challenge mission that you go through in your Bananza form for that level. And you have to do all these different, there's like 7 or 8 bananas in each one of these challenges, along with like these hidden balloons that you have to collect in order to get these the discs that you can only get through these levels. And so there's some extra challenge, and I don't think you guys have done those, but
I did one. Yeah.
Okay. So they're pretty fun. They're definitely challenging. The zebra one I think was the most challenging because a lot of it is on a timer and you have to do it really quick. And some of them you have to go back and do it within 20 seconds to get the second banana for it. And so it's challenging. And so there's definitely a spike in difficulty on the back end of things. Despite the whole collectathon of grabbing all the things, there's still a lot to do. But it just feels a little thrown together, and it doesn't. And at one point, you go back down to the music level where the rave is happening, and Grumpy Kong like rebuilds the speaker, and then you do this like you do a secondary concert with Pauline. So there's some more there, but it kind of feels discombobulated a little bit. And it was interesting. It wasn't the most rewarding post game ever, but I love the game so much that I didn't mind it. Like I was here for it. So it was really the last little bit that I was getting done where I was just like, can I please be done with this? Like I just want to move on. But I also was at, what did I tell you guys? 65 hours, I think was where I
Oh,
was
really? Is that where you're
at the
at?
end.
Okay,
I think that's
cool.
about what it took for me to get to where I was. I tried really hard to not look anything up online. I think I only did like once or twice throughout my whole playthrough. I tried not to do it because I normally don't mind doing that stuff, but I was like, I want to do this stuff myself. I want to figure it out. So that probably slowed me down a little bit, but overall, it was still pretty fun. The one thing that was keeping me from 100%ing was that you have to buy all of the outfits and the dyes after you collect all of the fossils. But one level, I accidentally skipped going back and purchasing everything. And so I literally had to go level by level, load in, run over to the guy selling costumes and see if I bought everything, then go back to the gong, hit the gong, go to the next level. It just took forever. And then I got to like the elephant level and there was like all the stuff that I hadn't bought. And I was like, well, that was what I missed. And so it's a little hard to see where everything is. I appreciate that they list out every banana. They list out how many fossils you need. So that stuff was pretty easy to like understand, but there was certain parts where it was like I didn't know where it wanted me to go and it just was a little unclear at times.
I everything that you're saying, like compared, like we were talking about Mario Odyssey, like having a very satisfying end game, and then we assumed that that's how it was going to be here. Them adding the bananas, them doing the elder challenges, having the Grumpy Kong like build the stuff, the little Easter eggs and stuff. Net then with all of that, you're like kind of disappointing then, right? Like not you're kind of hoping for more.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't need much. When you 100% something, you want to unlock something that differentiates you from people who didn't 100% it. Like I guess the balloon does that, but a different skin would be cool. There is a tie that you can purchase from the female Kong. I can't remember her name right now.
Oh yeah, I liked her actually. I don't know
She's
why.
decent. At the end, after you buy the statue of Donkey Kong, you can go to her, and for some more gold, you can buy this invisible tie. And when you wear it, it makes Donkey Kong invisible to the player, but not to enemies. And so
What?
it's kind of cool, but it's also kind of useless and pointless, and I guess you could like play with it on, and it's like an extra challenge. I don't know. It's just like I would rather have something a little bit cooler where maybe it does make you invisible to enemies and so you can just run around. I don't know. But and then I like something different, like a different cutscene or something that you can only get if you complete it. And so they kind of did that. So they kind of checked every box. It was just minorly disappointing on like how the cool factor, I guess. But that's just me. So
I've tried to put the screenshot
yep, that's it
in
right
in
there.
the thing. So you have Pauline, and one of the like secret endings or like the full ending. You get that snapshot of her, playing, the guitar or performing, right?
Right.
So this advanced secret ending, you have, the characters in the front row, the Bonanza, like, um, the species or whatever. You have the elephant and the ostrich, etc. But Pauline's in a red dress. I just want to point that out, giving more fuel to the fire, my theory that that's Pauline. She's in the red dress in this screenshot.
Mm.
So just pointing that out.
She's wearing
Uh,
her mom's dress. She's dressed like her mother, who's already a famous singer. She's the next. She's the next lineage of the famous Pauline family, who are now 3 generations of singers. And so she had a lot to live up to, which is why she had anxiety and issues singing in front of people because she has to perform as well as her mom and grandma used to in front of all these people in New Donk City. It all makes
I
sense.
yeah, connect the dots. You sound like that like meme where he's like
Mhm.
Yeah,
connecting
right.
the strings or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I want to do a follow up episode that gets into the layers and kind of talking through like what we like, didn't like about them, and also the bonanzas and like what was our favorite, what they do, how useful they are. I think we can do two separate episodes just on those. But one thing I wanted to talk about as a spoiler was kind of just like the wrap up of anything that surprised you or disappointed you and a final score. Now, for me, I need to talk about this. The songs, the music, and the sound effects in this game for me drag the score of the whole game down one whole thing. Like it, there are certain levels where this music I had to play with the TV turned down. I already talked in the first episode. We talked about the grunting and the smashing, and I get past it. It goes to the background. Um, but the Donkey Kong music is so iconic. I would put it in the same vein as like Mega Man, Sonic, Castlevania, like some of the banger IPs that have some of the best music. I would put Donkey Kong in there. Like there's just a vibe, and some of the levels are fire. Like great music. I would say at least half are not good. What are your thoughts about this? I was so disappointed, David.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't think it bothered me as much as you because there's still some really great music in the game. But you're right. There's some that I just that is just kind of there and kind of forgettable. Um, Not to the point that it like physically like bothered me though, where I'd actually want to like turn it down. But yeah, for a game like Donkey Kong Country, which has some of the greatest music in video games, yes, some of the music wasn't the standard level music wasn't that great. I'd say that I always really pretty much enjoyed anything that was in um, like the Bonanzas or the special stages, challenge stages, whatever you want to call them. I've always enjoyed the music there, but yeah, there's definitely some kind of placeholdery music almost sounds like in a couple of just the while you're standing in a layer that
Hmm.
probably could have been like a little bit better. And I don't know kind of why they went that direction. Um, because the kind of the moody, vibey, jazzy type stuff is like what Donkey Kong's known for. Outside of maybe they were trying to go for more of like a Donkey Kong 64 vibe for the 3D levels and didn't do a very good job of recreating Grant Kirkhope. That's the one thing I can think of, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I it wouldn't be enough for me to like lower the score because of it, me personally, but that's just me.
Clay, what do you think? Am I being
Yeah,
too hard?
I think I probably aired more towards Tony's end. I don't know if I would fully dock it a whole point just for the music. I do think that there's a lot to live up to with the music, and so to get that it's going to be tough. Um, I know a lot of people on the front end were concerned that there might be too much like homage music pulling from old Donkey Kong games,
Hmm.
and they wanted there to be new Donkey Kong music, which I agree with. But now, having played this game, I think that they would have been better off leaning towards doing a lot more homage music and
Mhm.
focus less on new music. But regardless, we got a little bit of the homage music and a lot of new music. I agree. There's definitely some certain layers and levels that have much worse music. My least favorite being the feast layer. I think that was by far the weakest layer of music. And that one was a standout to me where I was just like, I hate this music. I think there's like a carnival part at one point, and it's
Oh
just
my
like
God, that was
on loop.
terrible.
Yeah,
Mm.
and it just and it's not long enough. And so that I think that was the thing with I was listening to some other podcasts, some of the earlier levels, the music like isn't bad, but it's so short and it loops itself over and over
Mhm.
again to the point where it's like it gets really
Yeah.
old really fast. And so um it's a tough legacy to beat. It's a tough legacy to live up to. I think they might have even been better off being more atmospheric and focusing less on having catchy tunes, and
Yep.
maybe letting the ambience and the sound effects of the level lead, and then do kind of a Breath of the Wild thing where they would kind of bring in little
Mhm.
like melody tunes here and there. I wish they had done something a little more like that, but
Yeah.
I agree. Overall, disappointing in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I'm
And the
glad
game
you
had
brought up the feast layer. It was terrible. Go ahead,
yeah.
David.
That's another game I wanted to bring up that like kind of had the same legacy to live up to was Ukulele and the Impossible Lair.
Hmm.
And they most of the original composers didn't work that heavily on that game, and they used a lot of new composers to because it's kind of a spiritual successor to Donkey Kong Country. But they definitely did a way better job, though. Most of the music is really good in that game, and it kind of captures the spirit of the atmospheric Donkey Kong Country without actually even being Donkey Kong Country music. So it's definitely doable. So there is just some weird kind of questionable. That's why I said it kind of feels like temp music that they didn't replace because it's like short, repetitive. Like someone just dropped an MP3 from a royalty free sound library or something into a level to like have something there while they were bug testing it and forgot to remove it. Because then a lot of the music I do really like. So it's kind of a whiplash
Yeah.
of like going from like weird repetitive nonsense to like, oh, this is a kind of a vibe, and I don't know. It's
The
strange.
the there's songs obviously that go accompany each bonanza, and those are good. Like, they're like very energetic, which is what they're obviously going for, and they're different for each bonanza. And I hear some like a meme going around is like the zebra song is like standout favorite for some people. I haven't really memorized what each one sounds like or anything like that, but I enjoyed those, and you're listening to those quite a bit, especially after you start unlocking like the basically you can be powered up quite often in the game, toward the second half especially. So that cuts in, and I rather listen to that than like the actual like level music. So very interesting. One of the things that I forgot I wanted to mention is, Clay, you brought up Pauline on your back and how you felt about that and how you thought it was going to go and then how you felt. Like, what'd you think about Pauline riding on you?
Yeah, I mean, I barely even noticed she was there most of the time, so it didn't bother me. I thought I was gonna hate it and be like, "Oh, I wish I could just be Donkey Kong," but it didn't really bother me. And like I said, sometimes she's actually helpful when she points out bananas. Sometimes I wouldn't see them, but she would see them. I'm like, where? Oh, there it is. It's above us or whatever." And so overall, it didn't bother me. And I think that they did such a good job with the writing of her character and the voice acting for her character that she was super lovable and she wasn't annoying. And so if they had made her annoying or obnoxious in any way, I probably would have been like, get her out of here. But they did such a good job with her character that she didn't bother me at all.
Yeah. Shout out to the singing that she does when you unlock the doors. Like it hits, it slaps every time I wanted to do it. And I just liked it. And I think it is an accomplishment where you have a buddy character that is literally riding your back, but slips into the background like she's small enough or like you know, just enough to be pop out when you need it. Oh yeah, she's there, but and useful and has a singing mechanic to find things, etc. But not overstaying her welcome. It was pretty wild. Let's give a scoring to this, and if you could also just tell me if you like this game, like where this stands in your ranking of Donkey Kong games. You guys are aficionados for Rare. You guys love DK. Like Clay, isn't your like screen name like K Rule or what's your
It's Clay Rule.
Clay
Yeah.
Rule? You are a Donkey Kong fan. Where does this sit in your ranking? Is this the best Donkey Kong game ever?
You want to go first, David, or you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I don't think it, for me, the original trilogy, I think will always be the best. You can't beat that to me. However, I do think this is the best Donkey Kong game since, and I did enjoy it quite a bit more than Donkey Kong 64, which, while I did enjoy, didn't really entirely feel like a Donkey Kong game to me. It felt more like Banjo-Kazooie reskinned with more characters, which is another game I like, but it just, it wasn't really exactly, when I was really looking forward to that game, I was like, I want to see how they're going to turn Donkey Kong Country into a 3D game the same way Mario and Zelda got turned into 3D games. And then the solution was like, well, we'll just kind of do Banjo-Kazooie with more characters. And I'm like, oh, all right. Whereas this feels more like a very thoughtful transforming of not just Donkey Kong Country, but the entire legacy of Donkey Kong into the 3D space. And it works really well. But to me, just there's still not quite that magic that the original trilogy had with the perfect music at all times, and just the revolutionary nature of how those games looked back then. It's hard to like live up to that magic that's kind of was that point in time in the mid late 90s. But it's a really good game. I don't want to knock it anyway. It's just those games are so important to me. It's hard to rank anything above those. But this is way better than I thought that I'd ever see a Donkey Kong game, particularly with Nintendo trying to do it themselves, and still capturing so much of what made Donkey Kong good. So,
How about a star rating from you, David? How many stars out of 5?
I'll go ahead and give it 5 stars, especially in today's market. Yeah, I mean, like there aren't this good of games made. Like maybe if I was competing it against like all the greatest games from the start of the video game industry, but like I feel like you got to rank it against what's coming out nowadays, and there's almost never games this good released now. So
Okay.
5 out of 5.
And Clay, what do you think?
All right. I think I agree with David. I think the original trilogy, is still the best Donkey Kong games.
Damn.
I also think that Tropical Freeze is still a better game than this.
What?
Yeah. So I would put this right after Tropical Freeze. So it'd be the original trilogy, Tropical Freeze, and then this. And only because I think Tropical Freeze has better music. I think it's the only thing that puts that above this game, in my opinion.
I
The music
agree
in
with
that
the
one.
music. The music is really good in Tropical Freeze, but I don't know. The gameplay didn't click with me.
It's definitely more challenging. It's a harder game. Just same with Donkey Kong Country 2. Really hard game. Almost to the point where I think it makes it almost a little less fun because it can be so challenging and punishing. But yeah, so I mean, it's up there with the greats. I think Donkey Kong Country 1 is still my all-time favorite game of all time, and nothing will ever beat that. Just from pure nostalgia and just how much of a perfect game that is. I don't think that Donkey Kong Bananza is a perfect game, but I do think it comes very close. I love that this game is introducing Donkey Kong and some of these characters to a whole new generation of kids and gamers who are going to be like, this is their first Donkey Kong game. And maybe they'll go back and play older Donkey Kong games. Maybe they won't. But it's going to open up a whole new, hopefully more games are going to come and more things are going to happen. Donkey Kong's in the parks now. Maybe he's going to get a movie. And so I'm hoping that there's a lot more Donkey Kong stuff that comes from this. And I think Nintendo now owning it and saying, hey, we're down to make a Donkey Kong game. We want to invest in this property and make it even better, can only mean good things for Donkey Kong fans. And so I'm really excited about that. I toy between a 4-star and a 5-star rating. I would probably sit somewhere in the middle at like 4.5 stars. But if that's not possible, then I would give it a 4 out of 5, I think. I just because 5 stars means it's perfect, in my opinion. I don't know. So I see both sides of it. It's tough.
I knew, like, I was about to be shocked when you said Tropical Freeze was better, but then I was like, I was gonna pose to you. I'm like, if this had banger music like throughout, where would you rank it? And like, I think you kind of answered that question. Like,
Yeah, and one other thing I didn't mention this. I think some of the later levels in this game in Bonanza are a little weak. I think they have some really strong front levels, but as you kind of get toward the back end, I mentioned
Feast Layer.
the Feast layer earlier. I thought that one was a little weak. Also the Groove layer and the landfill layer, like
Yeah.
they're different and unique, but it wasn't as memorable,
Really?
in my opinion.
Yeah, I really liked the Groove layer. Like,
This is why, like, you could talk for like an hour
yeah,
about the layers.
because to me,
like-
my favorite part of the game, I think, was from like the moment that like Pauline got like, I don't know, kidnapped or eaten or whatever.
oh,
And that was when I really just hardcore played to that point until I like beat the game.
yeah, that was cool.
Really invested, yeah.
For me, the game is incredibly addicting, which brings it right up to 4 or 5 stars. It shouldn't have worked. It's an achievement that, like, with the amount of destruction, the level design, it has some challenges with the cameras, but it should be a broken game, and it just isn't. The addictive nature was there, so the only thing that brings it down for me is the music, honestly, and like some of these like sound issues. You can't control the settings, so you can't even like manually adjust some of these things. There's just potential there that was kind of wasted. So I'm going to hit it at a 4.5 out of 5. That'll do it, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this exciting episode of Switch Talk 2, our spoiler episode. Please leave a comment in the YouTube description, just in the YouTube comments, sorry, with your star rating. Let us know what you liked, what you didn't. I really am going to try to get these guys to do one of those ranking things where we can rank the layers and talk about the layers and what we thought. And then same thing, have a discussion about the Bonanza like power-ups, because there's a lot there. But what a game. What a game. I told Clay, I was like, I think that I'm more happy with the Switch 2 now than I ever was with the Switch 1. When I think about like the bangers like Odyssey and like, Zelda and all that, I'm just more like hyped for owning the console with a huge, awesome title like this, with Mario Kart World being good, and like all the games that are coming. Like, this game really has got my faith up that this is going to be a good gen, like a good console. So I'm excited. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time